The alarm goes off at 5:45 a.m. It's Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. The sound isn't a gentle chime. It's the default, harsh buzz of an iPhone slicing through the last few minutes of decent sleep. Mark's hand fumbles in the dark of his Austin apartment, the blue light glow hitting his face like a mini interrogation. He's already tired. He was tired when he went to bed. The apartment is quiet, save for the low hum of the fridge. It's a nice place off South Lamar. He should feel proud of it. But in this pre-dawn gloom, it just feels like a box he rents to sleep and work in. The faint smell of last night's takeout Thai curry from the place down the street still hangs in the air. He pulls on the same brand of stretchy, tech-branded joggers and a company hoodie from the Q4 Innovation Challenge he didn't win. The fabric is soft, but it feels heavy. By 6:30 a.m., he's in his car, a sensible hybrid, sitting in the already thickening traffic on Mopac Expressway. The sky is turning a soft orange over the Texas Hill Country, but all he sees are red brake lights, stretching for miles. The air conditioning blows a vaguely dusty smell. His podcast plays some tech CEO talking about relentless execution. The words blend into the rumble of tires on asphalt. His knuckles are white on the steering wheel, not from stress, but from a numb kind of acceptance. This is just what you do. His office is in one of those new, shiny glass towers in the Domain. It's supposed to feel like the future. He swipes his badge a soft beep and a green light and walks into the quiet roar of an open-plan floor. The air smells like recycled air, coffee, and the faint, sweet scent of stress sweat. Rows of people are already at their stands, their faces lit by the glow of monitors. Someone's already on a Zoom, their overly cheerful "good morning" sounding tinny through their headphones. Mark logs in. Before he can even think, his screen explodes. 47 new emails since he signed off at 7 p.m. last night. His Slack icon shows 99 plus unread messages. The first notification pops up, a calendar invite for a pre-meeting sync for the alignment workshop. He hasn't even had his coffee. The next 10 hours are a blur of light and sound and a feeling that's hard to name. It's a mix of being very busy and utterly stagnant. He's on 5 Zooms. In one, he's asked to circle back on the offline conversation to ideate a net new paradigm. He nods, types the phrase into his notes, and feels a part of his brain quietly check out. The click-clack of 100 keyboards around him is like digital rainfall. His lower back starts to ache from his ergonomically optimized chair, a dull throb right at the base of his spine. At 1:15 p.m., he eats. He's at his desk, scrolling LinkedIn while shoveling a packaged salad. The lettuce is limp, the chicken rubbery. His feed is a parade of polished faces in bold text. "Hustle 24/7 or get left behind," one post screams. Another from a college teammate says, "Quiet quitting is for the weak full send or go home." He feels a pinch in his stomach that isn't from the salad. It's a cocktail of anxiety and a weird, distant envy. These people seem so sure, he just feels tired. Between meetings, he's tasked with updating a project management deck. He moves colorful rectangles around a digital board. He changes labels. He spends 45 minutes choosing a new font for the headers. It feels important in the moment. But if you asked him what he actually built or solved today, his mind would go blank. He's performing. He's doing the dance. The work isn't to move something forward. It's to show that he's working. The clock ticks to 6:45 p.m. The office has that end-of-day buzz, people packing up, but also that tense undercurrent of people who aren't leaving, who are trying to be seen leaving late. Mark sends one last email, "Per my last," and closes his laptop. The sudden silence in his own head is loud. His ears ring a little from the headphones. He stands up, and his body feels stiff like he's been in a low-grade fight all day. The drive home is quieter. The sunset is beautiful, painting the Austin skyline in purples and pinks, but he only glances at it. He's thinking about the unanswered Slacks, the unfinished deck, the vague, nagging feeling that he's on a treadmill and someone else controls the speed. Back in his apartment, he orders food again. He flops onto his couch. The blue light of the TV reflects on his face. He scrolls through streaming options for 20 minutes and can't pick anything. He ends up watching trailers for shows he'll never watch. His phone buzzes, a work email. His manager sending a quick thought at 8:30 p.m. His heart sinks, a physical drop in his chest. He doesn't have to answer it now, but he will. Because what if he seems uncommitted? He gets ready for bed around 11. Brushing his teeth, he catches his own eyes in the mirror. They look a little hollow. There's a faint line between his brows he doesn't remember having a year ago. The bathroom fan whirs softly. He spits, rinses, and thinks about tomorrow. It will be exactly the same, and the day after that. And the week, the month, the year, he lies in the dark. The city sounds are distant, a siren, a distant laugh from the street below. His mind won't shut off. It replays snippets of meetings, of that one awkward thing he said, of the LinkedIn post from the guy his age who just became a VP. The anxiety isn't a spike. It's a low, constant hum, like the fridge in the other room. And in that dark quiet, a question forms. It's not a loud, dramatic one. It's a whisper, almost too scary to fully listen to. But it's there. Asterisk, what if I'm doing everything they told me to do, and it's all wrong? Later that week, Mark has to run an errand at lunch. He's walking down Rainy Street, past the old bungalows turned into bars. But tucked between them is a new kind of place, a co-working space with floor-to-ceiling windows. He glances inside. The scene is different. It's not the quiet, tense buzz of his office. There's low music. People are sitting on couches, at long wooden tables, and little phone booth pods. A woman is completely focused, drawing on a huge digital tablet, a look of pure concentration on her face. A guy is welding something small at a maker table in the corner, sparks flying. Two people are whiteboarding, not with corporate jargon, but with crazy arrows and words like, "What if we..." And that's fun, they're working. But it looks like asterisk creating asterisk. It looks like they are solving actual problems with their actual hands and minds. No one is checking their LinkedIn. No one seems to be performing for a promotion. They are just engaged. A laugh erupts from the whiteboard pair. It's a real, unforced sound. Mark stands there on the sidewalk, holding his takeout salad. The warm Austin sun is on his neck. The smell of barbecue from a food truck mixes with the scent of cut grass. For a second, he's not in the trap. He's observing it from the outside. A single thought, clear and sharp, as the ring of that welder's tool, cuts through the noise. Asterisk, what if I'm not my job title? What if Mark, the project manager, is just a current costume he's wearing for a particular play? What if underneath all that, there's a Mark who likes to build things, who's curious about data, who used to love taking old radios apart just to see how they worked? That guy got buried under a mountain of status updates and performance reviews. The identity isn't the problem. The prison is believing the identity is permanent. We think we are the castle. We're not. We're the person who built it. And we can build something else. The world has changed. It changed while we were busy updating our profiles. A report from a major 2025 headhunting firm found something wild. 42% of the ideal candidate profiles they get from companies are for jobs that asterisk didn't even exist asterisk 2 years ago. They're re-looking for AI integration ethicists and metaverse experience designers and circular supply chain analysts. Your past title is becoming obsolete faster than ever. Clinging to it is like clinging to a speeding train by a single finger, exhausting and doomed to fail. So here's the turning point. It's not a thunderclap. It's that quiet moment on a sunny street, seeing people actually enjoy their work. It's the question that follows you home. What if you treated your career identity like software? Something useful, something you use to navigate the world, but something that constantly needs updates. Something you can even completely overhaul without the whole system crashing. Version 1.0, mark the student. Version 2.0, mark the junior analyst. Version 3.0, mark the project manager. What would version 4.0 look like? He has no idea. And for the first time, that doesn't feel like a crisis. It feels like a blank page, a little scary, but full of possibility. The trap makes you think you have to have the new identity perfectly built, with a new title and new business cards before you can take a single step. That's the lie. The truth is, you take tiny, secret steps first, just for you, just to see what it feels like, and the new identity forms around those actions. You don't become a UX designer and then start designing. You start designing in secret, in the dark, for 10 minutes a day, and eventually you realize you've become one. The glass castle is a facade. You can leave. You don't even have to smash it. You can just quietly walk out the back door and start building something real in the backyard. No one needs to see the first messy drafts. That's where freedom begins. The image of those people working in the sunny coast pace stuck with Mark. It followed him through the rest of his week like a friendly ghost. It was Friday night, April 4th. The work laptop was closed. The apartment was quiet. The usual Friday night numbness was setting in, the feeling that he should go out but was too tired, so he'd just watch a movie he wouldn't remember. He was scrolling on his phone mindlessly, a reel of a guy restoring an old car, a clip of a chef making perfect pasta, a video essay about the history of the zip code, and then an ad. It wasn't flashy. It was for a free online learning platform. The tagline was simple: "What do you want to learn tonight?" It was the word tonight that got him. Not for your career, not to get ahead, just tonight, a tiny private choice for curiosity. He clicked. The page loaded, clean and simple. He typed Python into the search bar. He'd always heard about it. The language of data, of automation. It sounded like a superpower he didn't have. The first course that popped up was called Python for Absolute Beginners. Automate the boring stuff. A smile almost touched his lips. Asterisk boring stuff. Asterisk, he had plenty of that. He enrolled. It was free. He didn't tell anyone. This wasn't a LinkedIn announcement. This was a secret just for him. He felt a flicker of something, not excitement exactly, but a low-grade curiosity, like turning over a rock to see what's underneath. Saturday morning came. He had a vague plan to do laundry, maybe go to the gym, but that little flicker was still there. At 10 a.m., with the morning light streaming into his living room, making dust motes dance in the air, he opened his personal laptop, not the work one. That was an important distinction. This machine was for him.
He pulled up the course. The instructor's voice was calm, friendly. Let's start by just getting Python onto your computer. The course began for real. Print your first hello world. The instructor explained it like showing a toddler how to stack a block. Then the instructor gave a real-world example. Let's say you have a monthly task, like calculating your expenses from a text file. The instructor showed a few lines of code. It wasn't the full solution, but it was the concept. You could tell Python to read a file, look for certain words, and add numbers. This is the friction point, this exact moment, the moment after the first tiny win, when the excitement fades and you look at the mountain of stuff you still don't know. The voice comes back. That was just a toy example. The real problem is too hard. You're not cut out for this. This is where 95% of people quit. They try something new, hit the first real snag, feel silly, and slide right back into their old, comfortable numbness. But if you push through that feeling, not with giant effort, but with a simple decision to try for just 10 more minutes, you cross a line. You enter the 5%. You're not an expert. You're not a success story yet. But you are now a person who has tasted what it's like to solve a problem for yourself, by yourself. That changes you. Neuroscientists actually have a name for this. They call it a micro-win. And a 2024 study found that this kind of win, specific, personal, and immediately rewarding, triggers a dopamine release in your brain that is 24% more effective. For building new habits than chasing a big distant goal, like get a new job, your brain loves it. It craves more. You've just given it a new kind of fuel. Mark looked at his code, those few lines of text that had just saved him no time at all on a fake problem. But they had given him something priceless, a sense of agency. He had acted, and the world had responded in a logical way. In his normal work life, he could act for weeks and see no clear result. He saved the file. He named it Expense Calculator 1P. The V1 was a promise to himself. There would be a version 2. That night, as he lay in bed, the mental tape that usually played his anxieties was different. It wasn't replaying awkward conversations or future worries. It was playing with the code. Could I make it sort the expenses by category? What if the file was a CSV next time? The hum in his mind was creative, not fearful. It was the sound of an engine that had been cold for a long time, finally turning over, sputtering, and catching. He had taken a small, secret, messy step. He had built a tiny raft in his backyard, just a few planks nailed together. It would never sail an ocean, but it proved he could float. And once you know you can float, the idea of building something bigger, something that could actually take you somewhere, that idea doesn't seem so crazy anymore. It seems like the next logical, exciting step. The glow from that tiny victory lasted about 48 hours. Then, real life came crashing back in. It was Monday, April 7th. A major project at work went sideways. Suddenly, Mark's calendar was a solid wall of red crisis meetings from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. His Slack was a waterfall of panic. The old heavy feeling was back, pressing down on his shoulders. His little Python script and its 22/25 calculation felt like a dream from another lifetime, silly and childish. By Wednesday, he was exhausted. He got home at 7:30 p.m., the smell of his own stress sweat faint on his shirt. He ordered pizza, ate it straight from the box on the couch, and stared at a wall. He knew he should open his laptop, do his stealth hour, but the resistance was a physical weight. His brain felt like mush. The voice was loud. "You're too tired. It doesn't matter. One day won't hurt." This is the daily war. It's not fought in dramatic moments of decision. It's fought in the trenches of a tired Wednesday night, when the couch is soft and the brain is empty. The goal isn't to feel motivated, it's to act, even when you're not. Mark didn't want to, but he remembered the feeling of that quiet pride. He made a deal with himself. Just 10 minutes. He wouldn't even try to learn something new. He'd just open the file and look at his old code. He dragged himself to his desk. The personal laptop was cold to the touch. He opened it. The screen's light was harsh in the dark room. He opened his expense shach calculator shaf v1 py file. He just read it. The lines of code were familiar now, like a short poem he'd memorized. He ran it again just to see the total expenses, 22.25, pop up. A tiny, stubborn spark flickered in the mush of his mind. That was it. 10 minutes. He closed the laptop. He hadn't moved forward an inch, but he hadn't moved backward. He had held the line. In this war, holding the line is a victory. He realized he couldn't just rely on willpower. Willpower is a battery that drains by 5 p.m. He needed systems. He needed rituals that would run on autopilot when his brain checked out. So, that weekend, he built what he secretly called his immunity rituals. They weren't grand. They were specific, tiny defenses against the chaos. Ritual 1, digital fencing. Every weekday at 8 p.m., a free app on his computer and phone called Freedom would kick in. It would block his access to social media, news sites, and streaming services for 90 minutes. Not optional. The first time it happened, he felt a jolt of panic. His thumb automatically went to tap the Instagram icon, and it was gone, replaced by a calm gray block screen that said, Focus Session. He was locked out of his own distractions. It was uncomfortable, but in that empty space, there was only one thing left to do. The work. Ritual 2. The 5 p.m. identity shed. When he finished work, he started doing something weird. He would physically change his clothes. He'd take off the company hoodie or the work polo and put on an old soft t-shirt from a concert years ago, or a worn-out flannel. It was a tiny, sensory signal to his brain. The performance is over. Now, it's my time. He'd then take a 5-minute walk around his block. No phone, just feeling the air, seeing the live oak trees, hearing the kids playing in a nearby yard. It was a literal and mental buffer zone. Ritual 3. The stealth hour. This was the core. From 8:15 to 8:40 p.m., at just 25 minutes he worked on his real project. Not the course anymore. He'd given himself a mission. Build a simple website for his friend, Dave, who had just started a small bakery out of his home called Dave's Sourdough. Dave didn't need anything fancy, just a place to list his breads and hours. It was a real problem for a real person. Mark was learning HTML and CSS to do it. The project had meaning, which made the frustration of broken layouts bearable. Ritual 4. The Evidence Journal. Every night before bed, he opened a simple notes app. He didn't write about his feelings. He wrote one line of evidence. April 10th, fix the website header so it doesn't disappear on mobile. April 11th, learned about CSS Flexbox, still confusing. April 12th, added a photo gallery for Dave's bread. It was a log of tiny proofs. On days he felt like a fraud, he could scroll up and see. Look, you are building something. Here is the data.
***, Ritual 5. Saturday morning CEO. ***, every Saturday at 10 a.m. He'd go to a local coffee shop, Mozart's on the Lake, and for 90 minutes, he'd manage his shift, he'd review his evidence journal, plan his next week's stealth hour sessions, and do one thing to connect his secret self to the wider world. One week, he messaged a web developer he found through Dave, just asking, "I love the design of your bakery client's site. Any tips on choosing fonts for food businesses?" No, asking for a job, just a specific question about the craft. The rituals weren't magic. They failed, constantly. One Tuesday, his boss called an emergency meeting right at 8 p.m. The stealth hour evaporated. He felt the old frustration rise, hot and familiar. The old Mark would have said, "See? The universe is against me." "I quit?" The new Mark just looked at his evidence journal and thought, ***, okay, the system failed tonight. I'll execute ritual 2 and 4 and reset tomorrow. Asterisk, he changed his clothes, took his walk, and wrote in his journal, April 15th, work crisis. Held the boundary after the call. Did not scroll mindlessly. System reset for tomorrow. It was a win of a different kind of resilience win. He started to see his city differently. Austin was no longer just a grid of traffic and offices. It became a map of his tiny victories. The dot at Mozart's coffee shop, where he learned about responsive design. The dot at the Central Library, where he hid in a quiet corner one Thursday evening to debug his code. The dot at Barton Springs, where he sat on the grass after a swim and sketched a website layout in a paper notebook. The smell of chlorine and sunshine on his skin. The biggest change came when he stopped doing it completely alone. He saw a flyer at Mozart's for a Learn Night at a brewery on South Congress. It wasn't a networking event. It was just a weekly meetup where people brought personal projects and worked on them together. No pressure to perform. He was terrified. What would he say? I'm a project manager building a bakery website in secret? It sounded ridiculous. He went anyway. The brewery was loud and warm, smelling of hops and popcorn. He found the group in the back corner, a mix of people his age, some younger, some older. A woman was knitting a complex pattern. A guy was building a miniature model. Another was writing in a leather journal. He found an empty seat, pulled out his laptop, and opened his code. For an hour, he just worked. Occasionally, the knitter would ask, "How's it going over there?" And he'd mumble something about CSS. She'd just nod and say, "CSS is a beast," and go back to her knitting. There was no judgment, just presence. The sound of shared concentration in that noisy room was more powerful than any library's silence. He was part of a quiet tribe of builders. The timeline of his transformation wasn't a straight line pointing up. It was a heartbeat on a monitor, spikes of progress, dips of failure, but always, always beating. The evidence was in his journal. In the functional, if slightly ugly, website for Dave's sourdough. In the way the tightness in his chest had begun to ease, replaced by a low, steady hum of competence. A study from Gallup in 2025 found something powerful about people like him now. Professionals who practice these kinds of identity-shedding rituals, who literally and mentally separate their performed self from their learning self-report asterisk 31% higher resilience to burnout. Asterisk. They are asterisk 3 times more likely asterisk to successfully pivot careers within 18 months. It's not about brute force. It's about building a secret garden of skill, brick by brick, where you are the only gardener, and then one day you realize you can live off the fruit. Mark's old life and his new potential were now running on parallel tracks. The old track was familiar, paved with other people's expectations. The new track was rough, unpaved, and built entirely by him. For weeks, he just kept laying down the gravel, one stealth hour at a time, trusting that a path was forming even when he couldn't see it ahead. The engine of his curiosity was no longer sputtering. It was idling steadily, ready to go somewhere. All he needed was a destination. And destinations have a funny way of appearing once you start moving. It was a hot Tuesday in late June, 2025. The Texas sun was a blazing white coin in the sky, baking the asphalt of South Congress Avenue. Mark was sitting in the same brewery where he'd been going to learn night, but this time it was quiet in the afternoon. The smell of lemon-scented cleaner hung in the air from the morning's mopping. He was nervous. His palms were a little damp against the cool wood of the table. He wasn't here for his stealth hour. He was here to meet someone. A guy named Leo, a friend of Dave the baker. Leo ran a small, new company that helped local farmers visualize their crop data stuff like soil health, rainfall, yield predictions. It sounded like science fiction to Mark, but also deeply practical. Dave had mentioned offhand, "Hey, that website you built is great." My buddy Leo was asking who did it. I told him you were just learning. But he said he'd love to chat anyway, so Mark was here to chat. He brought his laptop. Not because he expected to show anything, but because it felt like a security blanket. He'd even put on a clean t-shirt. Leo arrived. He was about Mark's age, wearing jeans and a faded band t-shirt. No blazer, no corporate vibe. They shook hands. Leo ordered an iced tea. They made small talk about the heat, about Dave's sourdough rye. Then Leo said, "So Dave says you're building websites and digging into data stuff for fun?"